From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. In the past 24 hours, Israeli strikes in Gaza have killed 71 Palestinians and injured another 102. Among the casualties were 7 aid workers from Australia, Palestine, Poland, and the UK. They were part of a convoy from the World Central Kitchen, or WCK. WCK is a U.S.-based nonprofit that feeds people during conflicts and major disasters around the world. The organization has denounced the assault, demanding a ceasefire, but stopping its work in the region. Israel has also floated a plan to shutter the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East, or UNRWA. This is in defiance of an order by the International Court of Justice. Humanitarian organization Doctors Without Borders says Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital is in ruins a day after Israeli troops withdrew from the complex on Monday following a 2-week raid. This was after weeks of heavy fighting that left hundreds of patients and medical staff trapped inside. Decomposing bodies have since been found under the wrecked hospital, where witnesses say Israeli soldiers targeted civilians in and around the facility. At least 32,916 Palestinians have been killed and 75,494 wounded in Israeli attacks on Gaza since October 7th. The death toll in Israel from Hamas's October 7th attack stands at 1,139, with dozens still held captive. Republican Congressman Tim Walberg has stirred controversy after suggesting the nuclear bombing of Gaza during a town hall event on Monday in Dundee, Michigan. His comment has sparked condemnation, with critics highlighting the disregard for Palestinian lives. A voter asked a Michigan Republican why taxpayer money was being spent to build a port off the coast of Gaza. Walberg responded by saying the U.S. should not be spending a dime on humanitarian aid in Gaza, and that it should be instead handled like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This was a reference to 2 Japanese cities that the U.S. detonated 2 atomic bombs over in 1945, killing approximately 200,000 people, mostly civilians. Walberg's remarks come amid Israel's ongoing war on Gaza as the Biden administration approves new weapons transfers to Israel. The dire humanitarian situation in Gaza, worsened by a near-total blockade, has drawn international concern and condemnation. Walberg's statement adds to a series of inflammatory remarks from Republican lawmakers regarding Palestine, raising questions about the party's stance on the issue. Amid backlash, Walberg has attempted to backtrack on his comments, emphasizing the need for a humane approach to the Gaza crisis. American Muslim groups are planning to boycott a White House Ramadan invite and Eid celebrations due to President Joe Biden's support of Israel's war on Gaza. Last year, 500 Muslims attended the Eid celebrations at the White House. This year, only 15 will be hosted for its iftar dinner. Outraged by the administration's failure to push for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, several community leaders have declined any invitations. Sources familiar with the plans, speaking on condition of anonymity, say the White House plans to hold a scaled-down iftar dinner in light of the ongoing war. The National Cherry Blossom Festival on Saturday was held at the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Kites bearing Palestinian flags were flown in support of Palestine at the festival, where they garnered significant public interest. The annual celebration commemorates the 1912 gift of 3,000 cherry trees from Mayor Yukio Ozaki of Tokyo to the city of Washington, D.C. It spans 4 weeks and welcomes more than 1 million people. This year it began on March 20th and will end April 14th. Iran says a blast in its consulate in Syria's capital, Damascus, was a result of a strike by Israeli warplanes. 8 people were reportedly killed, including Mohammad Reza Zahidi, an officer in an elite unit of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, as well as several diplomats. The incident has brought a dramatic escalation in Israel's ongoing war on Gaza, in which it has also targeted other parts of occupied Palestine and southern Lebanon. Iran has vowed to respond to the attack, with Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian describing it as a violation of all international obligations and conventions. Israel has long targeted Iran's military installations in Syria and those of its proxies. However, Monday's attack was the first time it had targeted the embassy compound itself. Muslim countries, including Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, also condemned the attack. Israel's Knesset passes law to close down Al Jazeera. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Get ready for an extraordinary telethon at Muslim Network TV. Join us on April 6th for an 8-hour extravaganza. Since 2020, Muslim Network TV, a project by Sound Vision, has been your 24-hour source for diverse and enlightening content. We bring you the truth that other media outlets shy away from, uncovering stories that matter. We need your support to keep Muslims on air. Join us during this blessed month of Ramadan for a day dedicated to producing quality programming that raises awareness and builds a stronger, forward-thinking community. Muslim Network TV is more than just a channel. We are your voice today and the strength of tomorrow. Don't miss this opportunity to make a difference. Mark your calendars for April 6th and be a part of something truly impactful. Together, let's make a difference. Muslim Network TV, where truth and community unite.
Welcome back. Israel's Knesset has passed legislation allowing the closure of Al Jazeera television. The law was passed 71-10 in its second and third readings in the Knesset plenum or assembly. Under the law, the communications minister can shut down foreign networks operating in Israel and confiscate their equipment if the defense minister identifies that their broadcast poses an actual harm to the state's security. Following the passage of the law, Israeli Communications Minister Shlomo Karhi vowed that Al Jazeera would be closed down in the coming days. Early Monday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to immediately act to close Al Jazeera following the bill's passage in the Knesset. The U.S. described the passage of the bill to close Al Jazeera as concerning. Al Jazeera has an office in Israel and a team of correspondents working year-round, including covering Israel's ongoing war on Gaza. Afghanistan's interim Taliban government says U.S. military drones are patrolling and violating the country's airspace. Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid told Tolo news agency the aircraft belong to the U.S. and are operating from some neighboring country. Mujahid has also stressed that the Taliban have repeatedly protested this issue and asked the U.S. to take it seriously. Earlier reports indicated that drones had been observed conducting patrols over Kandahar and Nimroz provinces in the past few days. A Muslim American woman in Oklahoma has expressed shock after FBI agents interrogated her regarding her pro-Palestine Facebook posts. Rola Abdul-Jawad has asserted her right to freedom of expression, criticizing the agents for not pursuing actual criminals. Abdul-Jawad says she felt unsafe due to the FBI's actions and emphasized that in America, freedom of speech is fundamental. In an interview with the Washington Times, the agents did not specify what Abdul-Jawad said on the internet to warrant their visit. Her lawyer, Hassan Shibli, says the FBI's actions infringe on constitutional rights. He adds that Muslims in the U.S. have statistically lower rates of crime and violence, yet the FBI spends too much effort and resources targeting the community. The incident has raised concerns about civil liberties and government surveillance. A fire deliberately set on Easter Sunday engulfed a trailer loaded with Bibles in Wilson County, Tennessee, prompting investigations. The blaze occurred at 6 a.m. local time and led to road closures. Authorities were able to contain the fire and no one was injured. The Wilson County Sheriff's Office says initial investigations point to deliberate arson. Sheriff Robert Bryan says that they have found strong evidence of intentional burning, with security footage revealing a vehicle that had out-of-state plates. The incident remains under investigation. A Pakistani court has suspended the jail sentence of the country's former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his wife Bushra Bibi. The Islamabad High Court suspended the 14-year sentences handed down to the couple on January 31st. The case pertained to the illegal selling of state gifts, according to Khan's Tehreek-e-Insaf party. The former prime minister is accused of selling state gifts, which he claims he bought legally. Khan and his wife had also been barred for 10 years from holding any public office and fined approximately $5.6 million. A wild pig's head was discovered near a mosque in the French municipality of Contrexeville on the third Friday of Ramadan last week, sparking a probe into incitement to racial hatred. Worshippers found the pig head, raising concerns over religious tolerance and discrimination. France's Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin condemned the act and described it as unacceptable. Similar incidents have occurred in Ramadan this year at mosques in the municipalities of Valenciennes and Fres-sur-Escaut. These have prompted Darmanin, a right-wing politician, to express uncharacteristic solidarity with the Muslim community. In 2020, he targeted over 70 mosques for closure in France and closed down a Muslim publishing house the following year. Authorities have vowed to investigate these incidents thoroughly. Approximately 5 million Muslims live in France. A coalition of 40 Indian opposition political parties held a rally in the capital, New Delhi, on Sunday to protest attacks on democracy. The demonstration by the Indian National Developmental Inclusive Alliance brought in thousands of participants, with top leaders denouncing what they say is the erosion of democratic values in India. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was compared to an autocrat, with attendees emphasizing the need to safeguard democracy beyond partisan interests. The rally comes amid a crackdown by Modi's government on opposition parties and dissidents, with recent revelations of electoral bond corruption and tax notices. Participants and leaders at the rally spoke about how a coalition government and not one-party rule will strengthen India and its democracy. Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has inaugurated the national operations of the country's first interest-free commercial Islamic bank. He highlighted its potential to boost Uganda's financial sector and attract Muslim investors. Salam Bank received its license in September following parliamentary approval and Museveni's endorsement. The launch garnered praise from Sheikh Erias Kigozi and Djibouti's Foreign Minister Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. Salam Bank's chairman, Ibrahim Abdurrahman, highlighted the widespread acceptance of Islamic banking, including among non-Muslims. The global Islamic finance industry is projected to grow by 10% in 2023-24, per S&P Global Ratings. Sheikh Erias Kigozi, a Ugandan cleric, thanked the government for making it possible to have a banking system based on Islamic principles. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Muslim Network TV invites you to join us for our Ramadan Telethon 2024, taking place on Saturday, April 6th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Central Time. So stay tuned. This Ramadan, your support is needed more than ever to continue our mission of providing informative, educational, and inspiring content to Muslims in North America and around the world. Donate now by calling 1-800-432-4262. You can also use the Zelle app for easy payments by sending to info@soundvision.com or visit muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.